Bring in Gary Klein. He covers USC football for the LA Times. Start with the initial report here, Gary, and your reaction to this.
Well, Dan, I think we were like most people. I mean, this story came out from USC on their official website. So as fantastic as it seemed, I think some of the skepticism that most of us would have if it was coming from, maybe a different source was lessened some because it was coming right from their official website with Steve Sarkisian and Josh Shaw quoted. So I think I was like you. And, in fact, having been around USC for a few years and getting to know Josh Shaw, this wasn't the kind of player that you would, really go, really? This guy? Because of his reputation among teammates and just the way he has conducted himself since he's been at USC. But as you mentioned, as the details kind of emerged on Tuesday when everyone showed up at USC to kind of get the Josh Shaw hero story, before it even could begin, Steve Sarkisian said, put on the brakes and said, hold on a second, now we're looking at this. So it's kind of turned from a feel-good story to a murky story, and we'll see how it turns out.
Okay, so what is the story that you're hearing now?
Well, I think you alluded to it. I think they put the brakes on because they had gotten some calls at USC that maybe someone named Josh Shaw had been involved in an incident at a Los Angeles apartment complex on the same night that the save at the swimming pool had taken place. And at this point, police have said that the person named Josh Shaw is not a person of interest. They're not, a central person in this case. But the fact that the name came up on the same night in a situation where someone was seen running among a balcony at an elevated floor, has raised a lot of questions. And USC has said that they vetted the story before they posted it. They've said that they've continued to question Josh afterward, and that he has remained steadfast in his story. So how this is going to turn out, I don't know, but it certainly wasn't the kind of start that Steve Sarkisian, that Pat Hayden wanted to have entering a season after USC finally put its probation behind.
So what happens today?
That's a great story. I mean, they're going to be practicing here in a while, and as I mentioned, yesterday everyone went out to write the Josh Shaw is a hero story. I don't know if USC has plans at this point to update the situation. They have not made Josh Shaw available, and Sarkisian said that they won't at this point because there are too many questions left unanswered. I did not get the sense late last night that they were real close to resolving it. And so, that's what's great about covering USC. It's never a dull moment. There's always something that's going to happen, and we'll see today what's next.
He's Gary Klein, covers USC for the LA Times, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. I mentioned this to start the show, that it used to be UCLA sort of compared themselves to USC. Now it feels like USC's comparing themselves to UCLA, at least, in recent memory. This happened pretty fast. Is that fair to say that, Gary?
I think Jim Mora, him arriving, taking over the program, your next guest, Rick Neuheisel was fired, but I think some of the players that he recruited, especially Brett Hundley, have helped them elevate that program pretty quickly, at least in terms of beating USC the last couple of years. I know the people over at USC kind of have a wait-and-see attitude. Let's see if UCLA can really take that next step. But it certainly upped the ante in Southern California and made it a much more competitive rivalry, which is great for us out here.
Chris Dufresne, your colleague at the LA Times, said that Pac-12 can now look the SEC in the eye. Basically say we have better coaches, better quarterbacks than you do. Is the Pac-12 a better conference than the SEC, though?
I know that's the popular thought this year, especially with you start naming off those coaches in the Pac-12, and it's pretty impressive. But as someone who's watched college football a long time, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Georgia, those are still pretty hefty programs, and until someone starts knocking them off regularly, like Florida State did, or at least last year, I don't know that you can claim yet that the Pac-12 is all this and all that. We'll see how it plays out.
Who's the best team?
Well, going in, I would say Oregon, just because Marcus Mariota is so dynamic, such a great player. But at the top with UCLA, with Hundley, I think they're going to be very good. Chris Peterson's going to have Washington, I think, go in the right direction. And David Shaw at Stanford's got it going. I think USC is a team that could be overlooked simply because there's going to be questions about their depth, and that's they should be. But their frontline talent is pretty darn good, and I think it's a system that Sarkisian's putting in that's going to allow some of those skill players that USC still has an abundance of to shine. So if they stay healthy, I think they can make a run. Out here again, I think that game against UCLA near the end of the season, if it has some meaning, is going to be really exciting.
Have fun today, Gary.
Never. I'm telling you, Dan, it's never a dull moment at USC.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks.
That's Gary Klein. He covers USC for the LA Times.